I'm Krista Vernoff, and you're listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John and Pete.
With us this week on The Break It Down Show, writer, creator, showrunner, Krista Vernoff. What else do you do?
I sing sometimes.
All right.
Oh, yeah?
I was a singing waitress for
Were
like
you
10
really?
years. Yeah.
And you brought your accordion.
I play a little guitar.
Yeah, I do. We got a guitar right over here. And it's kind of small.
We do. It's Hilliard's guitar, though. Does he even tune that thing?
I doubt it.
I've never seen him break it out.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Don't tempt me, you guys, because I'm here to talk about screenwriting, but it's all I do all day. And
Yeah.
really all I want to do all day is play my guitar.
Is that
So,
true?
all right, so let's talk about that.
No, we want to talk about
bit.
that. But
Yeah.
first we want to plug Hill because we are in
we love Hill.
Hill Dog Productions, which is Hilliard's office, and where they record, and you've been on this show, Hilliard's podcast, The Screenwriters Rant Room. So we just like to tell our audience because this is sort of our production home when we're in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Great
Yeah.
art. Great light.
Yeah,
What
great
more could you want?
energy.
Huge construction outside the window, though.
Right.
Huge construction.
And
Strangely
great
not
art,
loud.
Great art, great light. That also describes Hilliard. You know, he
Yeah.
does great work, and I just love. He just lights the room up. He comes in, and you can't help but smile when you see that
It's
guy. I
true.
love
Great
Wow.
construction when he's at the gym. too,
Yes.
right? No, maybe that was a bit much.
Yeah.
We love Hill, though. And he lets us record whenever we're down here, and we sort of hole up in his office when we come to Los Angeles. So listen to the Screenwriters Rant Room. Check it out on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to it. And it's fun. And you've been on his show.
I have, yeah. I can't remember how I got invited on his show. I think he tweeted me. And I was like, okay. I love social media for that reason
Sure.
exclusively. Like, there's a lot to hate about it. But one time I thought somebody was super funny on social media, and I wrote to him and I was like, do you get paid yet to write movies? Because I get paid sometimes to write movies, but I want to write a movie that's funnier than I am. Do you want to meet with me? And he was a pretty famous comedian. He was like, yeah, let's get coffee.
Let's do it.
Wow.
And so
Who was it? Do you want to say?
it was Rob Delaney.
Oh, no
wow.
kidding.
Funniest man on Twitter. And I just wrote to him and I was like, you're so funny. I know you're having this huge moment, but I have this idea for this movie. And we met and we started to work on it. And then his amazing show, Catastrophe, got picked up to series and he moved to London and had a third baby and we haven't finished it. But what I loved about that, what I know too, is that Rob reached out to Sharon Horgan on social media when he wanted to write a writing partner for Catastrophe. It's given us this power that we didn't used to have because our agents used to tell us it's like, here's the list of people you can work with. But what they weren't saying to you is, here's the list of people that our agency represents because we want
I can
the
make some money
package and I can make some money. And Rob isn't at the same agency that I'm at. Nobody would have put us together.
Right.
But that was who I wanted to write this idea with. And we hit it off. And so it's given us that power to reach out to fellow artists, to have access to sort of see who they are and then to reach out to them directly outside of the agents and go, hey, I'm an artist, you're an artist, like, let's play.
And you get to understand how they play.
Yes.
Get a
and
little
so
sample.
You guys tweeted me, Hilliard tweeted me, and I feel like there was so little out there about TV writing.
Right.
When I became a TV writer, I would have been desperate for something like this. And people helped me in different ways, and I feel like it's a thing I can do. I can give back what I've learned and help the next generation. I'm so old.
Well, and the other thing,
Generations are like 4 years in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
especially.
it's true. I've survived like 5 of those. So
Just quickly for our audience, I don't mean to cut you off, Pete, but quickly for our audience, just so they know that they know your work, you wrote on Grey's Anatomy.
I wrote on Grey's Anatomy seasons 1 through 7. I was the head writer.
Yeah.
And the co-showrunner seasons 2 through 7. And I was on my first hour of TV I got hired to write was an episode of Law and Order. It was a freelance episode of the original Law and Order in
That's amazing.
season 10.
What happened in that episode?
In that episode, an old man with Alzheimer's accidentally killed his wife in an Alzheimer's rage. And the episode that I pitched was about what do you do with somebody who has Alzheimer's, who never had a violent bone in his body? Because I had a grandmother who was showing signs of dementia and rage that I had not seen as a part of her personality prior. And so I'd been reading about this aspect, and it turned out it was really a problem in the prison system. Is people in dementia rage because they don't remember where they are or who they're talking to, and they lash out in anger and accidentally kill people,
right,
or intentionally kill people but not in their right mind.
Right.
And what do you do with that person?
Sure.
And so that my episode was called Sundown, and it was about that. And then Renee Balsay, the showrunner, had a twist on it, which was that there was a mislead about who did the murder. There was like a man who was preying on grieving widows in support groups. That was sort of what the cops had to navigate. It's been 17 years since I've done that TV, and probably 16 since I've seen it. So I'm trying to. That's why I'm like, what was that about?
Incredible that you're doing that. And I guess we should say for our audience, a showrunner is someone who runs the show, like the whole thing. They're in charge of the production pieces. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Sometimes it's really a nebulous title. It's a nebulous title, and I can talk about sort of what it's meant on the pilots that I've showrun and versus sort of what it meant on Grey's Anatomy. It's a title actually that I think the New York Times coined in writing an article about John Wells. Because John had not created ER, but he was the producer who had packaged it, and he was the one. He was in there in the writer's room all day, every day, and they dubbed the term. They coined the term showrunner, and now it's actually like a contractual term. But how people do the job differs depending on how much you want to control versus how much you want to delegate.
Yeah, it's like producer. It can mean a lot of things.
Right. It can mean a lot of things. So just to list I'll just for your listeners.
Law and Order.
Yes, please.
Law and Order. I wrote 1 hour of Law and Order. And then I wrote a season of a show called Time of Your Life, which was a spin-off of Party of Five, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt and Jennifer Garner. And then I went to Charmed for 3 seasons.
Thank you for that. It was
CW.
Great.
Thank you. And from there, I did a show called Wonder Falls on Fox, which was short-lived but is well-loved. It's got like a cult following in the sci-fi kind of area. It was about a girl named Jay who lives in a trailer park, and you see these little animals in the corner. Yeah. They would start talking to her. It was a little bit of a Joan of Arc story, but the voices were made manifest through tchotchke animals. It was fantastic. It was a Brian Fuller show.
Wow.
And then from there, I went to Grey's Anatomy. I did 7 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, and now I'm on Shameless. I'm an executive producer on Shameless, which is a Showtime. Wow. John Wells.
That's terrific.
That
story came full circle.
And we're done.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Singing Waitress, too, before we get too far down the road. Yeah. Tell us about that. How do you get that job, first of all?
Well, I trained as an actor in school. My degree is in fine art acting. It actually is a BFA in acting. And I was a singer also, and one summer in Boston, I went to BU, College of Fine Arts, and, I had to make some money. So I got a job. There was a ship. There were these harbor cruise ships, the Spirit of Boston.
Right.
And you go and you sing and you dance, and then they teach you how to cocktail waitress. So I learned to wait tables. They taught me, because I could sing and a little bit dance. Really barely. I could barely dance. But it was like a top hat and a cane and like a gold lame vest. Like you were wearing like a black and white paisley vest. But when the click track would start and you knew it was time to start singing and dancing,
whip that off.
You would whip it around. It was reversible. And now it was gold lame. And you would grab your top hat and your cane and you would start to sing to the passengers.
Went from what can I get you to drink to hello, my baby.
Hello, my honey.
Yes. And on that boat, there was a 27-minute Broadway review show in the middle of your 3-hour harbor cruise.
Wow.
So if I hadn't gotten your drinks to you by the time the click track started,
there was going to be a 27-minute drought at your table.
Exactly. And so you're frantic because you don't know how to wait tables anyway. You're 19 years old. You're an actor.
Yeah. And you still need the tips.
You're running and you're reversing your vest and you've got a tray and you're like, run. One time I spilled a green frozen drink on a lady wearing a white dress.
Oh, wow.
And there's nothing. She can't go home. She's on a boat
for
3 hours out on the water. So yeah, it wasn't an
3-hour
easy job.
tour.
But I would sing you would sing like a snippet of Phantom of the Opera, and then, if they could see me, like you were just, like it was all Broadway shows.
Yeah, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. Yeah, all right.
So that trained me really well to be a showrunner. Actually, it's keeping all the balls in the air.
Yeah.
How else does that inform your? Let's start with writing. Does that inform what you put on the page? Is there some lesson in pacing or something?
Does waiting tables inform what I put on the page?
Well, just that job in general, the waiting tables, but the also knowing that there was the impending doom of the possible 27-minute drought.
Only in this way. That job I really thrived in. Like, it was super hard because there was this crazy deadline in the middle of the cruise. And I got really good at getting that vest turned around and getting on stage in time. And that is still how I write my scripts today, because there's a crazy deadline. I need a crazy deadline bearing down on me, or I won't write. So if you give me 2 weeks to write a script, I'm deeply disinterested in writing for the first 10 days.
But if I gave you 10 hours and a reversible vest, it's on.
It's on. And I have written more than one script in 10 hours.
In that vest.
In my bathrobe. No, that's my version of a reversible vest.
But a version of it still exists.
Yes.
It is part of the process.
It is that frantic adrenaline is a part of my writing process. But I would say that the skill set required for waiting tables is more really at play in terms of when you're show running or producing. You really do have to be able to multitask, and you have to be able to please a lot of people simultaneously.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to prioritize really up against the clock, and you have to keep your ego out of it. The best producers do, and those are a lot of things you can learn waiting
in a
tables.
Reversible vest.
In a reversible vest. Well, I waited tables and bartended for a long time after I did that job. And then I went to New York, and I was a waitress, and I was a bartender. And then I went to Portland, I was a waitress and bartender. And then I was a singing waitress again. The Portland spirit.
Because you love it.
This keeps going. I think that maybe you have like a retirement job waiting for you. That's going to be
maybe I'm going to. I often think I'm Facebook friends with Dan Yates, who I think still runs the Portland Spirit. Maybe I'll go back and sing there sometime.
Right on, Dan Yates. Well, be looking for Krista's resume in your inbox sometime, hopefully years and years from now.
Yeah.
When you grab that guitar, what kind of songs do you play?
Oh, like girl with like folky, like everybody's heart is broken in my songs.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very Ingrid Michaelson, but not as good.
Does Joe lie in any of your songs?
Oh my God. Oh my God, Joe lies when he cries in all of my songs. I am that girl. I am that character. I was that girl in college. I wrote those songs. And then briefly, no fucking joke, I fell in love with Lauren Dean, who played Joe. And then I literally was that girl. I was literally writing songs about him. Like horrible, heartbroken. He was never in love with me back. Horrible, gut-wrenching songs. It's so embarrassing and so true. Yep.
I love it. My work is done. That is so good.
Wow.
This is for all the people who are still waiting tables, by the way, and having their hearts broken by actors who are who it's like I saw this thing on Humans of New York the other day. This girl who had just graduated from arts college, film school, and she was saying how embarrassed she is to tell people that she works in a grocery store and she's doing an unpaid internship, that she doesn't know why she's so ashamed, and that she knows that she shouldn't be, and she's working with other really talented artists, but she left home and she's just so embarrassed to tell people that she works in a grocery store. She's like 22 years old. And I remembered so vividly feeling exactly the same way at 22. What I felt like was I was a cliche. I couldn't believe that I was an actress in New York waiting tables.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed by it. And so I wrote on Humans of New York, like, use it. Like, you have to use that. It, like, I want to tell her to let go of the shame, but, like, that doesn't really help. Like, use it to motivate you to be doing what you want to do. But also what I didn't say to her is there is so much you can learn in your grocery store job. There's so much you can learn in your waiting tables job.
That's what none of us realize.
Yes.
While we're actually on the trail.
Yes.
Making our way, taking the steps every day. Like, I am making progress that I can't see because all of this leads to the thing, whatever the thing is, right?
Yes, the thing. And I will say that when you get to Hollywood, you who went to film school and you want to produce movies, let me tell you, if you can't check your ego at the door and wait tables on 30 Angry New Yorkers, you cannot produce a television show.
Right.
You cannot... that narcissist at the bar that you hate, can I swear on this show?
Please, you can. Let her rip. Whatever the fuck you want.
You fucking hate that person at the bar because she clearly doesn't care about your day and she doesn't know your name and you've been waiting on her. That's your lead actress. She doesn't care about your day and she barely knows your name and she is deeply disconcerted about anything going on in your life or how hard you worked on that script or how many rounds of notes you went through. You have to find a way to navigate that, and not on just one project, on almost every project. It's not always the lead actress. Sometimes it's the lead actor. That person exists on every project you'll ever do in Hollywood. Maybe it's the other person you're running the show with. Maybe it's the executive. There's always somebody who's a fucking narcissist who doesn't give a shit about your day, who you have to smile at and serve.
Yeah.
And so practice figuring out how to put yourself in their day. How bad was their day? Which member of their family is dying? What can you relieve by bringing them the extra lemon for their iced tea because it's the only thing getting them through the next hour before they have to go to the hospital? Like, write a story in your head that allows you to have the compassion that you wish for from them. These exercises were given to me when I was waiting tables, and they really changed my relationship to waiting tables. And they make you a better writer to write a story. They make you a better producer to learn how to navigate bullshit and to learn how to put your own ego aside in service of the greater good, which is like, let's not shut down the restaurant this week. Right? Let's get the movie made. Let's get the TV show made.
I've been overseas a lot in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I deal with the locals, and I try to marry that up with what the military or State Department are trying to do. And so the path, I often say, is you have a goal of making a show. But if you would change your path based upon the lead actress's state of mind, and you still get to make the show, you've got to know her state of mind. Otherwise, you're going to force your path, your egocentric path, on something that isn't going to work, and you're not going to like the result. It's the same kind of thing where you have to understand their infrastructure of their mind, and then what's their perspective? Maybe,
and what are their needs?
Yeah,
I understand that because I was an actor, and most of my best friends are still actors because I went to college with actors.
Sure, yeah.
And I love actors, and I've made friends with many of the actors that I've worked with, and so I know what it is as a showrunner, and many of my friends are writers and showrunners. I know what, it's like I'll hear the battle from an actress from her perspective, and I'll know in my body what that showrunner is going through. But I have to, but it's like, what kind of advice do I get? Like, really, it's very hard to advise because most people are just fast asleep, and it's like they just want to be heard and they just want to, whatever. But for me, as a showrunner, it's a huge amount of information to take in. How tired that actress is, how hard it is to show up every day for 17 hours and also have to look pretty. If I had to look pretty while doing my job, if I couldn't do my job in my bathrobe with my dog at my feet and like my makeup from last night smeared on my face, I wouldn't get it done in the 10 hours.
Right.
The closest I've ever experienced as an adult of what it is to be an actor, because I was an actor, I quit acting in my early 20s, mid 20s. And I was never an on-camera actor. I was a theater actor. So the closest I've ever come is when I was getting ready for my wedding. The amount of fucking facials that I had to get, and like manicures and pedicures and highlights and like plucks and waxes. And I was like, oh my God, it's a second full-time job, this beauty thing. And so everybody just wants guys, actors, or there are writers and showrunners who are like, oh, they're props that eat. Like, they've never acted. They don't like actors. They don't want to get in their headspace.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, get in everybody's headspace.
Right.
Like, know what everybody's actual day is. What is that person going through? Did she see her kids? She's trying to look pretty and give you an emotional performance with a camera right here and no sleep and like, it's hard. And an actor said this to me recently, and it made me laugh so hard. He said, by nature, what we do requires us to be vaguely mentally ill.
I think that's true.
To stay like a little bit, to be a little bit of a raw nerve in order to call up all the emotional life. So you've got a delicate flower most of the time when you're dealing with that particular brand of talent, and you have to be the gardener. You can't be another flower.
Right.
And that's what it is as a waitress.
Wow.
The client is the flower. You have to be the gardener. If you're a flower too, you're going to get fired.
Too many flowers. We have we grew up with him. He's backstage manager for Green Day. He does a lot of the backstage stuff for the Eagles when they're on the road. And we all think about the narcissist artist who needs white flowers and 72 degrees. And he's like, no, people are spending $250 a head to come watch these guys perform 250 nights out of the year. They can't have a bad night. And if anything goes out of the norm, it takes them away from their game, then I'm not doing my job. I'm not the gardener, So he focuses on making sure that everything is right for Joe Walsh, so that Joe Walsh's pants are where Joe Walsh expects his pants to be. Right. And that might seem trivial to us, but you think about your own personal day, and if you can't find your bathrobe...
Right. Joe Walsh doesn't get to go home.
Right.
He's on the road.
Yes.
Yeah,
that
that's the thing, is that there's
is
also
his
much
house.
more at stake in these instances where you've got a whole show wrapped around this performance, and this actor is responsible for delivering this money scene. You got to give them the space and the best circumstance for them to deliver. And if you're in the midst of trying to, that person's an asshole, I have to be a bigger asshole, well, then suddenly we're not focused on the product anymore.
We're not focused on the product.
We're focused on assholes.
That is to say, listen, I try to understand everybody's point of view. But if somebody's just a flat-out asshole or they're abusive, I have zero patience. And I was the same way as a waitress. If somebody walked out without tipping, I would follow them out and say, I'm sorry, was there a problem with your service?
Yeah.
I almost got myself fired one time. Doing that in New York, it's okay. In Portland, it's less
You got to sing that when you say it.
But it's like, don't be a dick. Like, I'm not going to abuse you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to yell at you, and I'm not going to call you names. You don't get to do those things to me, no matter what you're going through. But with those parameters in place, then let's work together. Let me help. How can I help? And I have a zero tolerance policy for that, for abuse.
These are Hollywood lessons that are so practical and so good.
Yes.
And so left out of a lot of things when people are talking about. I mean, I love Inside the Actor's Studio, and I love all the stuff that you learn from, what it takes to coax a performance out of yourself and everybody's path. And I'm fascinated with all those things. But just to hear on a practical level, you got to make the show work. You got to be patient. You have to understand what people are going through. You have to give a little compassion to everybody so that you can make the pieces fall into place and give everybody a chance to do their best. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
you're a show nurturer.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete Turner.
And if you like the show,
do us a favor.
Yeah, share it.
That's the biggest thing, honestly.
All your social media outlets, all your friends, let them know the ones that you like.
Yeah. I mean, we make this show for you guys. If you think it's great, say so. Say so by sharing it. Say so by putting a comment in after the show.
Also, if you go to iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts, give us a rating. Give us a review. If you think the show is great, please give us 5 stars and say so. And if you think the show really sucks, please give us 5 stars and say so.
Because, heck, we're listening.
That's right.
You can't be more approachable than us. We want to make the show better. If there's something that we're missing, let us know. That really is how you help us.
That's right. Tell us all about it. Thanks for listening.
And now, back to the show.
Listen, this doesn't mean that there haven't been times when I've had epic tantrums
in my office. You're going to lose your shit, yeah.
You're going to lose your shit because sometimes people are super crazy. And I was raised by some people who were super crazy. So sometimes you're going to get triggered. And my rule is that I can go as crazy as I want to go. I just can't do it at anybody.
Right.
That's my rule that I've made for myself. So I can go into the office and scream to you about him if I need to, but I'm not going to scream at you about you.
Right.
That's where it's like if I need to vent and I need to swear and I need to, they're under my skin. I can do that, but I can't do it to them.
Right.
That's where there's a thin line between passion and abuse.
When the stress and the passion and all those things get together and you do cross that line, then you've got to gather everybody and say, I owe so-and-so an apology.
I am a huge believer in
front of
apologizing.
everybody, right, yeah.
And in apologizing well and thoroughly. And I just was saying this to my boyfriend about our kids, is like, I have a daughter and he has 2 boys, and they're navigating new sibling dynamics. And we were talking about how important it is to teach children how to apologize. Like when they say, I'm sorry, but blah, 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 blah. That is not an apology. When they say, I'm sorry, but I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. That is not an apology. Like, you wait to apologize until you're really prepared to own your side of the street, clean up your side of the street,
Right.
own what you did completely, and not put a but after it, or if you hadn't done X, I wouldn't have after it, and not say, I don't want to hear what you have to say, but I'm sorry. Like a real apology, a real amends is to own your part and then hear what the other person has to say about it. And that, I have to say, for me, it's the thing that people have most often called out, like, here's the thing I appreciate about your leadership, is you're not afraid to apologize. Like, really apologize if you've been wrong. And I think when that comes down from the top, you set an example, and hopefully people can rise to that. There's this really super false notion, both culturally and in Hollywood, that to apologize, particularly for a woman, makes you weak. And I call fucking bullshit on that. It does not make you weak. It makes you much, much stronger. If you said a wrong thing or got a thing wrong, I even kind of snapped at all 3 kids the other day because they were arguing about the backseat of the car. And then I found out that one of them wasn't in the fight. And I just texted him and said, hey, I heard you weren't involved in that. Sorry, I snapped at you. Like, just say when you were wrong, and it makes people respect you and want to do the same. And so
There's a skill to apologizing too. Like, you can't start with, I'm sorry, comma, you.
No.
You have to say, I'm sorry, I created, or whatever it's going to be. Because if you say you, you're just trying to win the fight.
Or if you genuinely believe that somebody else started that fight, but you engaged and you raged, for example,
right,
then you just apologize for raging.
Yeah.
Because nobody else can make you rage. And then it's up to them whether or not they want to apologize for their part.
Right.
But your side of the street is clean.
Right.
And these are not my own ideas. Like, these are 12-step principles.
We're not talking about the act of apologizing, though. What we're talking about is understanding that there was a conflict where you committed an action, and then truly regretting the actions, byproducts, whatever they were, and that you caused them, and understanding that and expressing that. Now, we call that an apology, but, some people say, well, to apologize is to say you're sorry. And
no,
to apologize is to mean that, if I had that to do over again, I would have done it differently.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the other thing we have to teach our children is, like, those parents who go, say you're sorry.
Yeah.
No,
don't say
you're sorry. Mm-hmm. Like, let's talk about how you hurt that person and how you can fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understand where the hurt came from, what your part in it was.
Yeah.
And that, so question from my wife, though, because I don't know.
We are talking about show running.
Where in the timeline it was, but did you kill off Patrick Dempsey?
I didn't. I was gone.
Oh, thank God.
I was years gone.
Years. That's what I thought, because you said 2002 to 2009.
I don't know. I was there seasons 2 through. I was there seasons 1 through 7. Seasons 1 through 7. I was there. So I think his character was gone in 9 or 10 or 11, maybe. They're in like 13 now. It's crazy. I can't keep up. But yeah. But I will say, I had dinner with Shonda a couple weeks ago, and I said, I like, hats off, because I thought the show wasn't going to survive it.
Yeah.
I thought when they killed that character that the numbers were going to go down. Like, I predicted like 40% the next season premiere. I was like, you cannot kill me.
That was like killing Tom Petty out of the Heartbreakers.
Right?
Yeah. Now it's just the Heartbreakers.
It's just the Heartbreakers.
Right.
But no, the numbers actually went up. They had one of their strongest seasons. It galvanized people. They came back to see what the show was going to be without him. They were like, oh, the show's, So hats off. That was a bold, bold, bold move.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That is bold.
I'm sure your wife is still mad about it.
She is.
How did you know? That's exactly where we were going.
I hear it. I was there when Denny Duquette died, and we got like hate mail.
Wow.
Like aggressive, angry, hundreds and hundreds of emails. Hate mail.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And years later, 3, 4, 5 years later, I was sitting in a hot tub in Palm Springs at some hotel, chatting with some really nice
Relaxing,
lady.
yes.
Trying to relax. And she asked me what I did. And often I say I wait tables still.
Wow.
Because I just,
Because it doesn't start that conversation.
Because I told her what I did.
Yeah.
And she said, "You killed Danny! You can't!" Started screaming at me outside under the stars. And I was like, "Oh, got it. Okay."
It's your own little hot tub version of Ask Me Anything. Except
Yeah.
you're like, I don't want to play. I don't want to play.
Yeah, or I say often now. Now I'm a little older and I have a kid, so now I often say I'm a mom. Which is true.
Yeah.
Yep. You're not lying.
I am not the angry male answerer. I'm in the hot tub trying to not be a mom right now.
I'm a mom, and I will answer every question you have about her because she's awesome. My kid. Yeah. Not you guys, but the lady in the hot tub. You know what I'm saying? I'll also,
Yes.
I like ladies in hot tubs, by the way.
I like hot tubs.
So, Shameless. That's what you're working on now, and you're an exec producer.
Yes.
So what specifically is that role in that context?
Well, this is one of those times where that role has really different meanings depending on the show.
Yeah.
At Grey's Anatomy, I was promoted to executive producer because I was promoted to co-showrunner.
Okay.
At Shameless, I worked my way up to executive producer the way almost every writer on staff has. So almost every writer on the staff is now an executive producer. And because John Wells is the showrunner and he has sort of a number two, our jobs haven't changed since we became executive producers, and that's one of those times. So, you don't get to be an executive producer without being like a grown-up who knows how to navigate a set and navigate a director and prep your episode and talk to the actors and take a million sets of notes from all the writers and from the showrunner and from the network and studio. All of those skills are essential, but I am not at all running that show, and I'm so grateful that I'm not. Just not that it's a great show and it's a great cast, but
a lot of moving pieces.
There's a lot of moving pieces, and the last several years since I left Grey's Anatomy, my goal has been to be home more and get to see my kid more than I was when running a show. And
how old is she?
Now she's 9.5.
Oh, wow.
And I left Grey's when she was 3.5. So I've really gotten to witness a lot more of her life, and that's been a beautiful thing. And I write pilots, and I get to produce a lot of them, and I show run those. And if they ever would go to series, then I'd be back running a show, but it would be my show. Mm-hmm. My thing has sort of been, I don't want to run a show again until it's my show. And I created it, and then it's sort of like a baby. And then I can also have my kid at set as often as I want to. I can make up all the roles that allow me to be the mom I want to be and the showrunner I want to be. Yeah. So that's my design.
That's a great goal. Okay, so let's recap. For what we've learned, listeners, is that if you want to be a writer, wait tables. Mm-hmm. If you want to sing, reversible vest, good.
Yeah.
Let me
Dancing
say this,
doesn't have to be great.
Yeah, doesn't have to be great.
I do believe that waiting tables, there's no shame in it, and it's a great training ground. But if you want to be a writer, wait tables and write. You better be using that shame and that frustration and your ego and your desire to have a voice in the world as motivation to go home every night and write. Don't tell me you don't have time. You do have time. Put your fucking phone down. Get off Facebook. Hilliard is yelling something. What'd you say?
He said, ass in chair.
Ass in chair. Like Anne Lamott says, ass in chair. Like, okay, I'm just going to tell you a story from my life right now so that you understand the degree to which I still apply this principle. I am pitching a show. John Wells Productions has partnered with me on it. And John Wells is, I defy you to name another person who has the consistent track record of quality, character-driven shows that are also commercially successful. Like, he's a big deal. And really, for a reason, he's super smart. And I went and I pitched my show to him and oh, no, sorry, I'm getting this story wrong. I was about to pitch my show to him. I had an appointment with him at 10:30 in the morning. And I called my Peter Page. I called my best friend, Peter Page, who show runs the Fosters, and I said, can you come over? There's something wrong with my pitch, and I don't know what it is, but I'm pitching Wells tomorrow, and I really want it to be right. Can you come over? And he was like, I can come over for 1/2 hour. 6:30. He comes to me on his way to dinner, and
that's a great friend, by the way.
It's a great friend, and he's my best friend since acting school, since college,
for years,
for 20
and years, yeah.
something years. And I pitched him. I pitched him the show passionately and all my heart. And I looked up from my pitch pages, which I was reading really fast because he only had half an hour to do the pitch and the notes. The pitch is 22 minutes long. I look up and I see his face. He's my best friend forever. I see his face. And then the first words out of his mouth are, "I love you so much."
Oh, man.
And I'm like, I'm like, all the blood just drains. You're just like, oh, God. And he's like, you're so smart. You're like, oh, God.
It just gets better and better.
You're a good dancer.
He's like, you have written an outline, not a pitch. It is too long by 3/4. And I knew it, but I didn't know it. Like, I knew something was super wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And I've been doing this a long time, but I had sort of taken one note and way overcorrected. And he was saying without saying, "You bored me to tears." He actually said, the executives you're pitching are going to be on to the next pitch in about the middle of page 2 of where you are. Yeah. And I was like, I am fucked. And he said, he's like, "Baby, just use your time with John Wells to solve these story problems that you also have." And he starts naming my story problems. And I was like, oh, like by the way, I've written 7 versions of this pitch. 7 versions of this pitch. And I'm like, I used to have those story problems solved, but then I got this note and I went the wrong direction. And he's like, "It's okay. It's just, you've just got some work to do." I set my alarm for 6:00 in the morning. And I got up and I rewrote the whole thing before I went and met with John Wells.
You are a badass.
I am a badass, and
That's true.
I work really well on a super tight deadline.
And your bathrobe,
evidently.
And I had my bathrobe, and I had someone else to take my kid to school, and I understand that I'm super the housewife waitress in the Midwest who has dreams of TV writing doesn't have someone else to take her kids to school, and I totally get it. But the 15 minutes that she spends checking a thing, she can spend writing. Yeah. 15 minutes, you can get a page written, even if it's shitty, and you can come back 15 minutes later. You take your evening 15 minutes of Facebook time and you rewrite it. Like, you recommit to your own art, and you will find the time to make your art. It doesn't have to be 4.5 hours in the morning before work and somebody else taking your kid to school. There's a version of finding time to do your work that everybody can do. And I got the whole. I knew. Now I was 7 versions in, so I actually was able to cut and paste together it was like, oh, my act 1 of this was the right length, and this story problem is solved this way. Also, Peter got on the phone with me. I was driving to a dinner that night, and we solved the one big story problem I'd had, like, on our drives to other places, and that's why he's my best friend.
Yeah.
But you should find time for your art and find time for your creativity. If you want to be a writer in Hollywood, you should know that once you become really successful, your day still looks frantic, and you still have a kid, and you still don't have time to do the art that you really want to do. And now you've got 15 million people giving you notes, and you have to find a way to protect your voice and your vision, but also take those notes. And every step of the way, it's difficult and it's complicated. It never gets easier. And so do it now. Do it now. Don't let yourself believe the story that you're always going to be a waitress, and therefore why bother? Don't let yourself I grew up on welfare. Don't tell me. I didn't have any context in this industry. My dad was a drug dealer. Don't tell me you can't do it. Don't tell me you're always going to be anything. Get the fuck up, put your ass in the chair, do your writing, or make a web series, or there's any millions of things you can be doing. I said recently, I was talking to a women in film event, and I said, the very same telephone that is turning into a Facebook rage zombie could turn you into a seasoned filmmaker if you just change which app you're using.
Yeah.
You can still stare at your fucking screen and tune out from life. Just make some art while you're doing it.
One of my buddies is he's a speaker, writer, that kind of thing, and he's written 1 million plus words on the internet, and he's great at this. When you drive, take Dragon Naturally Speaking. It takes $15 to download, and just write by talking.
I do a huge amount of that.
Right?
I do a huge
and he's
amount
like,
of it.
if you can't write 1,000 words a day, just write 10 words. And then, because once you write 10, you can write 10 more. And then you can write 10. Next thing you know, you've written everything you need to write, you know. And it's true. If you just get in the practice, because if you're going to be a writer, writing can't be hard. Writing is what you do. You got to work on the other skills, like getting along with people and nurturing relationships and everything. I mean, writing it's elemental. It's what you are, is a writer.
It's going to be hard too, but it is hard. It is hard to write, but you have to do it anyway.
Right.
Do it anyway. Giving birth is hard. We still do it. We're overpopulated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Relationships are hard. Love is hard. Marriage is hard. We don't not do it.
It still work.
It's this idea that we have that being a writer or in the entertainment industry or whatever is the dream is hard and unattainable, unachievable, and or not worthy of your efforts because it's never going to happen. Like, this is false. This is false. It's a story. It's a story that sort of minimizes the arts in our culture. And there's nothing wrong with having a day job and find ways to do your art, even though you have long hours, even though you have kids, even though you have whatever are the parameters in your life. Like, if you quit drinking for 1 month, you would have how many hours? I hope the number isn't too high, because then maybe you need AA. If you quit smoking weed for 1 month, how many extra hours would you have? If you quit socializing for 1 month, if you were like, this thing that I want so badly, but I can't make time for, what if I put aside some of the other things I make time for and focused exclusively on it? What would I get done?
Or if this thing that I say means so much to me actually means more to me than political ranting on Facebook.
Thank you. Amen. And I'm guilty of political ranting on Facebook. Don't get me wrong. And I actually think that sometimes it can have an effect. I sometimes go through and I click on these debates that people are having just because I want to understand the other side.
Yeah.
I really want to know what their propaganda is and what our propaganda is and what we see and what they see, because I need to, as a writer, I need to be able to write those characters.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Not just, though, I want to stop for a minute on that point, because it's not just your ability to write those characters. Hey, I want to be able to, say the other side, and I want it to be able to come across as if it was written by not just me, whatever my identity is. It's just your sensitivity towards the human experience. I think that what we've learned and all the things that we learned about what you took from singing and waiting tables and the things that you have in your life that inform what you write now, it's because you have a desire to stop and understand the human experience from everybody's perspective. When you apologize, you do it sincerely because you hurt somebody's feelings and you want to understand, what did I do? What could I have done differently? How can we get past this together? And it's not just, well, I want to be able to write dialogue that sounds like the dialogue that person would have said. I want to understand the experience of that person, and that is the core of a good writer. And if somebody has that, they have a shot. Now, I understand your message is, hey, everybody, get out there and do it. But my message, I'm going to change slightly and say, you should do it if that's in you.
Yeah, but I'm saying, yes. Yeah, be a writer if you have a desire to understand the human experience from every angle imaginable is great.
Yeah.
I'm saying every person I've ever met has some version of, I'm ashamed to say I'm a grocer because I always wanted to be X. Mm-hmm. Or I'm ashamed to say I'm a full-time mom because, like, I can't tell you how often I hear that. Or I'm ashamed because I don't see my kids enough because I'm a working mom. Or I was always an artist. I was always I was such a good visual artist, but I haven't picked up a pen or in 20 years since I was in school because I became a lawyer. Well, I have a friend who's a lawyer, super successful lawyer in Hollywood, who really, 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 really badly wants to be a rock star. And so what we do, it was his dream, and he gave himself 1 year before he went to law school, after college and before law school, to try to be an artist, to be a musician. And then, the family pressure was such that he became a lawyer. And he's a really good lawyer. He finds a lot of satisfaction in it. But his deepest satisfaction is when I come over to his house and we play music until sometimes 1 a.m. He just had a baby, so that probably won't be happening soon. But but we write songs and play each other the songs that we wrote, and then we pull out the songbook and we pretend we're a fucking band because it's my dream too. That I need to scratch my musical itch as badly as he does, even though I'm really living my dream. My main dream was to be a writer, but my second dream was to be a songwriter. So my daughter said to me recently, Mama, I would call you a writer-songwriter. And it was like the sweetest compliment in the world. And And so I'm saying this friend of mine isn't changing his whole life or throwing it all out to go be anything.
Right.
He's just making time.
Nor does he have anything to be ashamed of.
Nothing to be ashamed of. He's just making time to make music, and he gets so much joy out of it.
Right.
And so I guess what I'm saying, it's like it's a little bit Liz Gilbert's Big Magic message, but it's been what I've been preaching for a long time too. That book is amazing. She said it so extremely well,
Say
and
the
everybody
title
should read
again,
it.
say
Big
it again.
Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Just find the time to give yourself a little bit of that thing that you wish you were doing.
Yeah.
It's okay to spend time being the leather pants lawyer, with the rockin' haircut and everything else, and plugging in your Strat and going crazy.
Yeah.
It's totally fine to do that. You're
I get to
allowed.
be a lawyer. A lawyer is a thing I thought I would be good at too, but I get to do it. I write lawyers often,
Yeah.
and I get to put myself in court, and
Yes.
it's
You get the dramatic, really captivating parts of being a lawyer. You don't have to sit and read
Exactly.
discovery.
Oh, God.
You don't have to file motions. You get to do the stuff that's dramatic about being a lawyer, the passionate stuff. I won't stop until you're free.
yes,
kind of stuff.
The great speeches. Yes,
the pro bono cases.
Right, exactly.
Never really
Yeah.
take it. Yeah.
The fighting for justice as
Right.
opposed to, well, I think we can get a deal where you only have to do 2.5 years. I want to acknowledge for our listeners, if they haven't already looked up John Wells, because you've mentioned John Wells, I want to say this. John Wells made my wife's absolutely favorite TV show ever, which was ER.
oh yeah,
And he made my absolute favorite TV show ever, which was The West Wing.
Yeah, mine too.
And he's got sort of a coaching tree of that guy knows
Right.
what talent looks
Yeah.
like, because his cascades of shows that come off of his finding people and developing them is
He is
incredible.
the Bill Walsh of
Yes.
television.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has tons of legacy shows that come out of his work.
And so that makes you the George Seifert of television.
I don't even
know.
understand. I'm guessing because I don't know these names that they're sports related.
It's sports related. Yeah, we like to do some sports analogies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good compliment. I mean, obviously, he knows how to find talented people and develop those people.
Yeah.
You're on a show where people have producer titles. That means you guys, one, know how to produce shows, but also you know how to get out of the way and let your peer produce the show and be part of the team. Because you can't have 100 chiefs around. You got to be like, I have the ability to be a chief, but today I'm going to be someone who supports the other person.
And
Yeah.
look at you go. What can I do?
Yeah, how can I help?
chip in?
Yeah.
Yes, and John's really, really good at that.
Wow.
And yeah, it's. I feel like we didn't break down how you make an hour of TV, but we broke down how you have the soul and the spirit to be a warrior in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That counts.
That is
there's
what we
always
did.
There's always part two.
I have to say that this show was great in minute 1,
Yes.
and it got better and deeper. And I of course, listened to your episode of Screenwriters Rant Room, and it was great. And you guys talked about all kinds of stuff that's terrific. But here we were able to. I don't think that Pete and I had a direction. We talked about it on our way here. We were like, what do you want to talk about with Krista? We go through this exercise. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. Maybe we
Yeah.
can do this and do this and do this,
Right.
and we
Well-
can talk about. But ultimately, what comes out is that there's a message for humanity, and the fact that we appreciate people who make TV shows that we love because they've done the thing. And for many people, it's not just, boy, was I I was so entertained by that, but that is a great piece of art, and I wish I could make something. Maybe it's wedding cakes or something. I wish I could do something that people would appreciate like that. And so breaking down an hour of TV show, if you want to understand how an hour of TV show or how a story is crafted, then you should listen to the Screenwriters Rant Room.
Absolutely.
Here, though, what I think we accomplished and why I appreciate so much what you've done for us the last hour was that there's a path in life for everybody. And for those of us who can look back on a variety of things that we've done, all of those things have done something for you. Let's all use them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's all dig in and let's figure out what it is that's going to create joy for you, listener, and everybody around you, and use that fucking thing.
Get up and do the thing.
Yeah,
Get up and do
that's
the
it.
thing. And go come at it from yes, this is possible for
Yeah.
me. Yes, it is possible. I don't have a degree
Right.
in screenwriting. I taught myself how to do it. I
Right.
took a couple of classes. I took a playwriting class in college. I took a screenwriting class at the New School in New York when I was 22. And that's all there was. Like, I didn't go to grad school. So it was like there wasn't an internet yet, you guys. It's hard to remember.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine. There was one book at the time that I found that had one chapter on television writing. Otherwise, there were a few screenwriting books, just a few.
Yeah.
And so this one book said, write a spec script, sit down, watch television shows, study how they do it, and then try it. Try writing a sample episode of an existing television show, and then give it to people for notes.
Sure.
And then try again and try again and try again. And that's what I did. That's how I got from being a waitress to, running TV shows. Like, that was the beginning.
And your first script was a spec for what?
Friends.
Oh.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And you knew those characters inside and out.
I knew those characters inside and out. I knew those characters so well that one time my friend turned to me because I was debating something like Joey had said to Phoebe. And my friend Michaela Watkins, by the way, who's an incredible actress who stars in the show Casual, who was my roommate back in Portland, Oregon, turned to me one day as I was debating with somebody, with Peter Page. I was debating with Peter Page about Joey and Phoebe, and Mickey goes, the friends aren't your friends, right? And I was like, it stopped me. Like, no, they kind of are. Like, I loved it so much. You get inside it, and then you try to write it, you know? And then, by the way, I wasn't great at it. I wasn't a great sitcom writer. I wasn't a great half-hour writer. So then somebody said, try hour-long.
Yeah.
And that's devastating. There are always setbacks. You cry for a week or a day or a month,
Sure.
whatever you need, and then you get up and you do it again, and you do it better. You do it slightly different. You follow the advice that you're given. You ask for more advice. From the time I decided maybe I wanted to be a TV writer to the time I actually became a TV writer was like 6 years. And a lot of, maybe 10 scripts. Like like these people who come to me and they're like, I wrote one script.
Yeah.
Am I a TV writer? I'm like, no. Fuck you. Like, no. Go
How
do
dare
your
you?
work.
Not
Go
very
do your work.
close.
I know
Yes.
how hard it was to fill up those 60 pages. I remember doing it. But now you have to go take 6 rounds of notes on those pages.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to put it away and write another one, and then you get to look at it one more time and take another pass, because when a few months pass, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, there's
This
things I'm
isn't
better
tight
at
enough.
now.
This
It's not
isn't-
tight enough.
Right.
And then write another one. Like, it makes me crazy when people get defeated because they wrote one script and no one will read it.
Right.
I remember that stage. I went through that stage. Maybe it's why it makes me crazy. But then I wrote another one. Write another one. I wrote one in New York. I wrote several in Portland. I wrote several more when I came to Los Angeles. And don't not take notes.
Right.
Take the notes. Like, try. Because when you have a career as a showrunner, you're going to have to take notes you don't agree with all the time.
All the time.
Find a way to take the notes, even just as an exercise. You can self-school. You can self-school today so much more easily than you could self-school because
You
of the
can
internet.
self-school all of what's at MIT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For free,
It's
by the way.
crazy
Yeah.
how defeated people allow themselves to become, how quickly. And that's like family wiring. And undo it. Like, get really good therapy. Like, go. There's so many good free kinds of therapy. Go get 12-step work. Like, become a whole and better person. There are a million things you can do to become deeper and bigger and better and more practiced, both internally and externally, toward the work you want to do in the world. And that's what I have to say today.
I wanted to give you this compliment too. When John and I, we have a very unique preparation process, and we have a shorthand, so no one else would get it. But when we listen to the show, I got to a certain point, and I've already listened to the show several times, but I get to a certain point where, like, I don't need to listen anymore. I already know that you are a treasure trove of depth and experience, and it's fantastic. And that's what we're looking for, because what we think the show might be is never what it ends up being, And that really speaks to...
At least not with the right guess.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it really speaks to more of what you talked about with this experiential learning. You're trying to better understand the human condition, because every person that we've talked to who's a writer of shows, they've all talked about perspective. And if this script doesn't work and doesn't sell, I know Hilliard's going to agree with this because he's the one who taught me this. You're going to write it from a different perspective. You're going to flip a character. You're going to say, what if this person's a female? What if and you're going to constantly reimagine it. It's the same premise, but you're redefining it, and it's getting better because, and you taught me this on his show, is that you're a better writer now than you were then.
Yes.
So all of that stuff gets back to what John and I always talk about, is just getting into the workshop and doing the work, because maybe you aren't that writer today, but man, 300 days from now, you're going to be a much better writer.
Whatever is the work. And
Right.
that's why I say, my best friend sat in my living room. I'm at this stage of my career, and there are moments where you're like, oh God, I feel like a teenager. Like, Peter watched my college acting auditions. Like, he's the person who coached me on my monologues. Like, and it's like, oh, he loves me very much. This is not right.
Oh.
And I'm going to have to put a lot of work into fixing it. And so practice now, you who are 22 and working in a grocery
Right.
store. Not becoming, if I had become defeated, like in that moment, my body sunk, and my first thought was, I have to cancel the meeting with Wells.
Yeah.
Like, this is humiliating, and I'm not there, and I failed. Sure, let it be your first thought. That's like my brain. That's like my ego at play.
Yeah.
That's not my soul.
Right.
That's not my being. My soul gets to rise up and go, fuck you, brain and ego. We're going to turn this around and be grateful that we have a friend who will show up and tell us the truth
Yes.
about what's wrong with the work so we can fix it.
Right.
And I still have to do that now. It doesn't stop because I have success.
Yeah.
And so you have to do it all the time. So start doing it right now. Get up. Don't be defeated. Get up. Fix it.
And you also found a way to get to where you needed to be. The you that you were back then on that ship, dancing and singing and trying to serve drinks, you didn't know that you weren't a half-hour comedy writer. Like,
You're my funny Valentine. No, I didn't know.
That's the opening of this episode.
My funny Valentine, that was my song.
yeah. Well, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask. What was your song? But it takes, you got to be in the workshop to figure out what you are. And when someone says you're an hour-long dramatic writer who doesn't always want to kill off the characters, then you can start working and developing from there. Maybe you become something else, but you weren't in high school knowing that that's where you were going to go. You had to experience life to find out, like, oops, this is what I am.
I had to figure out. I didn't figure out that I was an hour-long television writer until I was like 27 years old.
Right.
And that's pretty early, actually. I have
Hey, you
friends.
said 20-something. That's still pretty darn good.
That's pretty early. I figured it out pretty early. But you know why? I'll just throw this out there. I got sober when I was 22.
Yeah.
And I was like ruining my life with drugs and alcohol, and it ran in my family. And I started on a path of wellness in my own life at a very young age. And when you free up all of the time and energy you're spending partying at that age and having hangovers and recovering from the emotional dramas you create when you're drunk, when suddenly you freed up all that time.
No idea what you're talking about.
And you have wise people giving you direction and focus.
Because you're worth time putting into. Like,
It's like, what are you going to fucking do?
Yeah.
You can't drink. You're 22 years old. I started writing.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think I got to be 27. But a lot of my friends who are now showrunners figured it out at 37.
Sure.
They were doing one-woman shows in Lower Manhattan at 35. So Liz Gilbert talks about following your curiosity. Even if you don't know what your passion is, follow your curiosity and do something different today.
Go do it, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest, Krista Vernoff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
so welcome.